Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the welcome, and thank you to Konsoll for inviting me back, and for scheduling me after that amazing talk. But this is where the laughs stop. No comedy in this talk. So, I think you've had enough. You're all laughed out. So, what am I going to talk about is marketing, as Gabrielle said. Because games are a commodity. We make games. Well, I'm not clever enough, but you guys are. And you make games, you create these amazing, beautiful works of art, but essentially we have to sell them, and we have to market them because games are a business. And although they can exist as beautiful, works of art, they're still commodities. We still need to sell them, generate money to make more games. So quickly, about me, because it's all about me at the end of the day. So, so thank you for inviting me again to Bergen. And I worked, well, I'll tell you this, that I will do anything for love, but I won't do that. Said Meatloaf when I started in the video games industry 28 years ago, which was, that's my only random joke, so I just thought I should put it in. Now I've learned to do it. And I worked on Super Nintendo games. Was my first introduction into the industry. So I was working on Jurassic Park on the Super Nintendo and the Amiga and lots of other games like that. So it was pre-PlayStation. PlayStation came along and really changed things up. I ended up at an advertising agency called Head First. So that's really where I went from PR, where I started, to corporate PR, to advertising, and working out how to advertise games and to kind of create key art and all of the kind of the marketing nous. I guess that was my key introduction. I ended up in a mobile studio called Connector Media for a few years before joining EA with their mobile indie studio called Chilingo, where I worked on a bit on games like Worms and Cut the Rope, but more on games like Iron Force, which was a kind of a tank game which bagged loads of money for them. And then I was made redundant by EA nearly 5 years ago now. So, kind of career highlight, everyone has to do it. And that's when I started Hey Stephen Hey, very imaginatively named after me. So now as Hey Stephen Hey, I was going to take the mick out of Ozan for having an animated Ozan to talk to, and I've got a Lego man, so I'm not really any more mature. But my business now really consists of working with indies and helping them to market their games. Sometimes I'll create kind of a mini agency around them, and we'll launch the game. I also scout for a games company called Merge. I do a lot of education, delivery, mentoring, boot camps, that kind of thing, to actually help developers think about how they are making their games and how to make them more marketable, and also to bring up new people into the industry and to tell them that there's other jobs in games apart from just making them, that they can get a job like me marketing them. Yes, so that's enough about me anyway. So let me tell you about this toolbox. So what's in your toolbox, Stephen? So X statements I am going to talk about, because X statements are really important. The last presentation contained a couple of really excellent X statements telling you what Manuel Samuel was. For instance, so nailing your X statement is really important. Players, who are we making the games for? If you can really understand that, then you are really onto a winner, or at least you can set off in the right trajectory when you're making a game. Competition, we'll look at a way of analyzing the competition and finding a space for your game in the market. And channels, what channels should we be active on? When we activate our marketing, where will we find our audience? we'll look at the marketing funnel, and then lastly, we'll look at assets. I told you it wasn't funny from here on. I've got some pretty amazing slide transitions, though, so you have to take a bit of glory in that. So number one, X statements. So X statements are really, really hard to create. And what is an X statement? And no, I'm going to ask the question, why? Why do we need an X statement? So your X statement is your elevator pitch, basically. It's your pitch, your one line, if possible, to get it to one line, which will transmit the idea of the game, which will take the magic of the game and enable you to pass it on. And that virality is really important because when you're pitching a game, often, even in a pitch situation, or you end up pitching a game to somebody in a bar or whatever, very often, though, you want them to talk to other people about it. You want, even if you're pitching to a game scout, that game scout has got to then communicate that internally. So you need to make it kind of viral, kind of snappy, so it doesn't lose anything when people pass it on, so it doesn't become like Chinese whispers where it just degrades and degrades all the time. And then it's really important, I think, to have that shared vision internally. A friend of mine, Graham McAllister, who I stole a couple of slides from, which I do credit him later on, really kind of bangs on about having a shared studio vision is the single most important thing in a games development team. And I really get that because, if you can have this shared vision, if you can kind of go around the team and say, what are we building, what are we making, and everybody more or less tells you the same thing, well, then that's great. You've got some real unity. You've got some direction in the team. If it differs, or if people think they're making something that is completely different from the game you're making, or the game in your head, then that needs to be addressed. So the X statement is really important for marketing, but it's also important for games development as well. So the X statement, as I said, is the one line that describes your game. Hopefully what you need to do in that one line is put in some true facts, the pillars of the game. So what makes your game distinguishable from the rest of the market? What makes your game special? So add in 2 or 3 pillars, which are true. They're game truths. They're not what you aspire the game to be. They're what the game is going to be. They're true facts and features about the game. You've got to be very honest in X statements. They've got to be true about the game. And it's really hard to do that, and to ask developers to kind of say, okay, give me your game in one line. It's hard work, and developers come to me all the time and go, we've tried to do this, we can't do it, or we spent all day doing it, how do you do it? So here's a few kind of techniques, I guess. There's the old adage of familiar plus different. So for example, The Sims meets Stardew Valley in space. So some people would say, okay, is it a bit lazy using games that exist already? But no, these are shortcuts to get to ideas that we know that we can all conceive. And then if you add that to something which is very different, well then, it can work. Tinder Meets the App Store was a game discovery engine which was pitched to me when I worked mainly in mobile. So that's kind of a curated app selection where you swiped left or right. And then finally, Tiger King meets Hitman. So they don't have to be games, they can be just ideas, they can be novels, they can be TV shows. You can, pull out of the rich tapestry of culture that we have. Okay, but what if I want something which is original? So, what about a twin-stick shooter with ships, galaxies, and enemies generated using your own music collection? So you kind of feed in your Spotify, you feed in your iTunes, and it generates a whole kind of galaxy of spaceships and planets and enemies. And this is a game, it's just gone up on Steam in the past few days. So, a great kind of game, and when I play it, it obviously generates a lot of 80s electronic music galaxies, because that's where I stopped listening to new music, seemingly. A full-scale riot simulator, very kind of, very kind of snappy line for a game called Riot. This is my latest game pitch. You are a lutefisk set on revenge for her people in a thrilling, first-person, blood-splattered, festive, stinky fish horror game. And I'll be taking any kind of investments in that at the end of the presentation. What next? So you can think about another way to do it is to look at the values in the game. What are the things that you want to build into the game, and kind of build a word cloud around that. Just noting all the values, write down as many as you can, maybe filter them out and agree amongst the team which are your top 10, your top 20, and then you can start building something out of that. Here's an example actually from a games publisher that I worked on. So this wasn't a game, but it's the same principle really. So Game Pump was going to be this game publisher, which was going to be, very kind of compelling, kind of irreverent. I mean, this was kind of before Devolver, and they were kind of had that kind of Devolver attitude about it, in that they were kind of very ballsy. They were going to use swear words because they were that cool. But they had a real love for games and gameplay, and were suckers for kittens, because they wanted to know people. Oh, they're just human inside. And the statement that we came up with for that was, Game Pump, we only do flipping, amazing games, and we do them good. So we're even, we're doing it, we've got a swear word in there, we're cursing, but we're not really. And we're ignoring the rules of the English language because we're that cool and we're that different and that kind of rule breaking. We don't care. They were super cool. What next? Next statement. So another way is to think of the moment. So sometimes I've been pitched games before, and I've had a pitch, and just as they're leaving, we're still talking about the game, and someone will say, "Oh, yeah, I love it. I really love being the giant in that game. I really love it when you can pick up the town hall and throw it across the ravine." And hang on a minute, just sit back down, because you didn't tell me about that in your pitch. Tell me about being a giant and picking up the town hall, because that's the thing. That's the moment in this game that I think is interesting. So if you can think about that moment, then you can kind of start to construct an next statement around it, because that's your thing which is genuinely different. So, going back to my days when PlayStation first arrived, just playing Ridge Racer was just revolutionary, and kind of coming around a corner, through a tunnel, the sky opens up, there's a jet plane overhead, there's balloons over here, and people are kind of passing you with just inches to spare on the side. Utterly thrilling, and really a really good kind of summary of that game. Soaking the gardener in Untitled Goose Game, that very early on, that moment where you have to turn on the tap and soak the gardener, you just feel different. It feels unique and special. And again, that's the catalyst for that game, really. Those moments are beautiful. And Halo. So, 28 years in the business, I've completed about 5 games. Halo is one of them, because I'm terrible at games. I used to be terrible at games. Now games seem to have got easier for me, which is excellent. I knew if I hung on long enough, I'd be good at games, or semi-competent. And semi-competent is, what it says under my career description on my website. One last way to work on your X statement is all the words. So just write down your X statements, no matter how long they are, Write different versions of it. Keep kind of iterating on it, just using a game dev word. And you'll start to see words that come up again and again. And then when you do this, you can filter out and go, okay, these words are important. So instead of sitting there looking at a blank sheet of paper, just attack it with your keyboard. Just write stuff, and out of that, those words, you'll see patterns in what you write, and then use those words to construct an X statement. Like go on the ultimate road trip as you renovate, design, and trade your way across the USA in this RV and trailer sim featuring Airstream trailers. It's a bit wordy, probably still needs some work, but it's getting there, and it's a lot better than those huge paragraphs that were shown before. So number 2 is players. I think I'm going to have issues where I've made my fonts all wrong. So Quantic Foundry is a market research company based in the USA. It's really important. I'm always going on about segmentations of players. Because if you can work out who your player is, that's really important. You need to then, you can design your game around their motivations. Segmentations is a marketing word where you essentially get all the people who can possibly play your game and segment them into the types of players who are going to play your game. Because the worst possible pitch is one that begins, my game is for everyone. Because that doesn't happen in real life, unless you're Candy Crush Saga, perhaps, which is kind of for everyone. So identify who your players are. Player segmentations like Quantic Foundries are really useful for this. There's Battle's taxonomy as well, which is kind of older. The thing I like about Quantic Foundries is that they put a whole load of this information up online. It's all on their website, so you can access it very easily. And they have a good, it's as good as any that the big, the first parties are using, that the big publishers are using. So you've got the different types of players here. An acrobat will want to have that kind of challenge. Gardeners are more kind of contemplative players. Relaxing tasks, things that aren't too onerous, things that they can really get themselves into. And I won't go through all of these because they're all on the website. They're all there for you to look at. But please do look at them, because if you can understand why people play games, then your feature set can address that. Your marketing can address that. Everything about the game, should be into, well, okay, so if I'm building a game for an architect, and it's going to be one of these big civilization games, one of these big god games, there's certain things, certain tropes, certain elements and features of those games that you need to put in. Yes, you need to put new stuff in, you need to surprise them, you need to put something unique in, but if you do that, you're going a long way to addressing your market and putting things in that when you come to market the game, there'll be triggers for these people, and they go, yep, it's got the complexity that I need. Yes, it's got the league tables that I need. Yeah, it's going to give me, fantastic glory when I take out a field of combatants. So really, please use something like Quantic Foundry's segmentation. The other good thing about Quantic Foundry is that I'm not paid by Quantic Foundry. I should be paying them. Is that you can do your own motivational model on there, actually. So it gives you an understanding as well of how this works. So when I was at EA, they had a segmentation. It was really good. They'd spoken to 2,000 people around the world. But obviously, I can't give you that, and that was a while ago now. But you can access this one, so it's really good. So I did mine, and just, I don't know, there was some kind of flaw, I think, in the program, because this is what mine mapped out to be. And then this came up, and then an alarm went off, and then the police came in. It was embarrassing, really, in many ways. So what is the third tool? Competition. So what do your players play? What are they playing already? You need to map at where your game sits in the market. If you're pitching to a publisher, they'll need to know where it sits. If you think your game doesn't sit anywhere on the market and it's completely unique, I hope it is. That would be wonderful, but it probably kind of isn't. The mechanics might be different or whatever, but then you can look at the other games that people in that segment would play, perhaps. So there's great tools, and anyone who was at the day yesterday saw a great presentation using GameDataCrunch.com. Steam Peak is another one. These are tools where you kind of can put in a game title and it will give you data and comparative titles. So that's an example from Steam Peak, and it was Cassie's talk yesterday. Sorry, I don't know where Cassie is, but her talk yesterday was great, and that gave you an alternative as well. So have a look at the game data site as well. So they're games that are out, and they're games that we can find because they're on the market already. Another useful tool is to use the top wishlist search on Steam to find out what's coming out, what games are going to be there when your game arrives, perhaps, or what games are on the way. And you'll start to see games where you go, okay, so this is what's out on the market, this is where my game kind of starts to fit in there. These are the games that are on the way, and there may be some competition there, so you need to keep an eye on those. And again, it's all up there, it's all accessible. You can do that top wishlist search on Steam. What else? So make a list of the games and make a big long list, then narrow it down, and just be truthful when you're doing it, and be as close as you can to your game. Because then what we're going to do is analyze the games for different things, really. For satisfaction from the players, for scale, how big are these games? How many gameplay hours are in there? Because that can be important with the scope of your game, but also the price that you can ask for the game. So note down the scale, note down the pricing, and note down the Steam tags as well, because all of this is going to be useful when you're setting up your Steam page. Again, these things can take time. They don't have to take forever. You kind of try and find time to do it, but please do go through this exercise because it's really useful. So the next thing I've pulled out of my marketing textbook is the Kano model. So the Kano model of kind of consumer satisfaction really was something introduced to me. I said I stole some things from Graham McAllister, who was a great man. And this was one of those, actually. So the Kano model just divides product features, really, into three lines, essentially. So the top line, the exciters, these are the things that are really excellent about your game, which are different, which really take it to the next level within its genre. The satisfiers are the kind of things that should be in the game to lead to a satisfactory. Yeah, that's I need to have that stuff in the game because that's going to make it. If it's a car, it kind of goes from A to B. You put petrol in it, it kind of goes. And then there's the musts, and these are the things. If it was a car, it would need wheels. It would need a steering wheel. These are the things absolutely you need in your game, because otherwise it's not a game, or otherwise it's not a game in that genre. So to apply that to a game, because it's all a bit kind of, well, Stephen, that's a bit, or animated Stephen, I haven't got one, that's a bit marketing schmarketing. So let's look at how that would work for a game. So again, we're just going to draw the chart. So from the left, where there's no implementation, that it's not there or very poorly implemented, to the right, where it's there, it's all singing, all dancing. And then consumers, are they satisfied or dissatisfied? So our must-haves here are delighters and the performance metrics, which are the basics. So what have we got? We're talking about adventure games here. So those basics are, mouse input. You've got to have mouse input. That's what I need. I've got to be able to read. If there's going to be text on screen, I've got to be able to read it. So, these are the bare basics, essentially. If I click, I want it to work. I don't want lag there. If I'm playing a point-and-click adventure and I click on something, I need a reaction. So what's going to satisfy me, though? So they're the things that I need to make this game, to make it a point-and-click adventure. So a decent plot, a nice, meaty plot is going to be great. Dialogue, which is believable, characters that are fully formed. And choices which are meaningful. So all of these things lead to satisfaction in a game. So we've covered the basics. We've made the game to a satisfactory standard. But we're aiming for above satisfaction. We really want to smash it out of the ballpark. So we need, in my point-and-click adventure, I'm going to put time travel. That could be cool. I'm going to put customization, so you can customize the characters. That could be a nice thing to do in my point-and-click adventure. What about if I have characters that FaceTime you? What if this goes off and I've got characters within the game because I've done something and they're complaining about what I've done in game? So this is where we lift it. This is where we make a product, a special product, or something which is truly innovative. When it comes to benchmarking other products, there's two ways to look at. Steam is a great resource. The description and the text that the publishers put in, and the developers, is what we intend to make. This is what the publishers and the developers think they've made. This is their description of it. But if you look at the reviews, this is what actually people think of the game. So these are very important as well. So look at the descriptions, look at the features that they're putting there, but then scan through the reviews and really work out what are people saying, what are the patterns, what is really exciting people, what's really turning people off. And if you scan through enough of these in your competitive game set, you start seeing these patterns and you start seeing recurring themes. I had to do this exercise for Stardew Valley once, and the recurring themes were this: everybody adored Stardew Valley. So I couldn't find any negatives apart from, I think I found 2 reviews that said it's a bit pixely. It's Stardew Valley. It's like, please. So ridiculous. But it's a really good thing to do. If you want to go deeper, and this is where you might need to rewatch this or maybe take a photograph, you could really take apart each game. I only recommend this if you've got time to do it, and if you really want to do a deep dive. Maybe you've got a very small competitive set. Maybe you want to do it with your top 3. But really, this is where you kind of take the description from the store, and then just split it into the ARC model, essentially: autonomy, relatedness, and competence. And then, so we give each we can give each a mark on the customization, the story, discovery, all of that kind of thing. Fantasy, community, and relatedness, and competence is that how am I achieving things in this game? Am I completing things? And you can mark it, and this information is coming from the reviews. So the description there is the publisher description, and then the rest of it, 3 and 4, are really coming from the reviews, and that will give you kind of a more analytical way to look at things. It's great if you've got, I wouldn't recommend doing that on 10 or 20 games, but if you've got a competitive set of 10 or 20, maybe do it on the top 5, maybe do it on the top 6. It will just help you formulate those patterns of comments on the games. So next thing is channels. So this all did fit onto one slide, but we've had a font issue. It will be resolved later, and heads will roll. So players, not really. They're lovely. So when it comes to channels, the issue as an indie dev, especially, is there's loads of channels. So we're just talking business to consumer here as well, and you shouldn't just think about business to consumer. When you're launching a game, when you're launching a dev studio, you should be thinking about B2B as much as B2C. So what channels are there? So we have influencers, and influencers are on YouTube, they're on TikTok, they're on Twitch. We have media, so PR, conventional PR. We have games press that you can talk to, tech, lifestyle, there's podcasts. There's specialists as well. So if you're making a dog game, you should be talking to the, Dogs Weekly, which is my favorite dog magazine. Stores, we've got to be talking to the stores early. They are a channel. We put our marketing information on the stores. Digital and physical stores still exist. What else have we got? Social. Well, there's loads of bubbles in social, and they're just the ones I know about. But I'm 52, so there's probably about double those by now. And this is one of the slides in my deck that I kind of have to look at like every week to check, is there something else? Is there a new social media network that I should be aware of, or shouldn't be aware of because I'm 52, as I said. Shows and events, so physical shows, and of course digital shows. I think after post-pandemic, digital shows are not going away. There's going to be physical shows as well, but we've learned how to do digital shows now, and they're big, and there's money to be made, more importantly, by people who put digital shows on, so they're not going away. So how do we make the most of those? Where else are we? Partnerships, so, looking to use other brands, maybe other developers. Paid, we can pay for marketing to go onto channels like TV, social, cinema, out of home, advertising, and games media. And then community, building up an email database is a really good tactic, but there's Discord, Gilded has come along and is growing. So there's loads of channels, and as an indie dev especially, you can't go on all of them. So that's where, because you've got to make a game. So, and if you've got community manager, great, but even with a community manager, you have to be selective, I think, and be careful about stretching yourself too thin, trying to make, a pipeline of assets for all of these channels. You can't do that. So find out, again, this is where knowing more about your audience really works. Because if you know more about your audience, you might be able to nail the channels that they're using. And there's more, So funnel, what's a funnel? So again, this is another marketing textbook favorite. It's a funnel. So awareness is at the top of the funnel. So marketing is a funnel. We start at the top with telling people that our game exists. And we tell as many people as we can that our game exists. Because not everybody is interested in your game. And that's fine. Because we want the people who are interested, who potentially, right at the bottom of the funnel, might purchase it and keep it, because that's what's at the bottom. But at the very top, you need to say, look at my game. Hello, I've got a game. So it's, what is this? We need some cut through. We need to cut through the noise. There's a lot of noise, and it's just making people aware. And we can use social channels. Twitter's great for that awareness phase. Roundup articles, pitch your game, which was on last week, which is goes from strength to strength. Every time that happens, all of the, the hashtags as well, that you get Screenshot Saturday and Made in Unreal, and all of those. And I think there's kind of a new dev game hashtag almost daily at the moment, so that's cool. And, and we'll use GIFs, we'll use announcements, we'll use key art to tell people that it's there, that the game is there. So the next stage is we kind of filtered out all those people who are not interested in our game, and it's about interest now. So this game is for me. I start to go, okay, well, I'm going to keep an eye on this game because I vaguely like this game, and I think there's something there. I think there's something interesting. I may even sign up for your website. I may even go and give you my email if I'm feeling particularly interested. But here we can kind of generate more interest with articles, blogs, gameplay videos, longer videos, because these people want to do a bit more digging. They want to find out more about your game, and they will go searching for content online. So make it available for them. What next is consideration. This is where I'm going, okay, I'm really thinking about when that game comes out, I'm definitely going to buy it or download it off a service. So you've got to kind of get them to commit here, basically. You want them to pre-order, you want them to be making wish lists at this point, you want them to be joining your community, to be, becoming part of Discord perhaps even. So they're seriously considering the game now. This game is on their list, it's on their watch list, they're kind of looking forward to it coming out. And we do that with demos, maybe, getting involved in Steamfest is a good way to do that. Being at shows, just this increased cadence of social activity as well. And then, of course, purchase. This is when they put their hand in their pocket and they pay for your game. And you want them to ideally, in an ideal world, become evangelists for the game. You don't only want them to purchase the game, but you want them to shout about it, to tell other people that they've bought it. And we can do this, we can kind of, help that along the way with, of course, marketing activity, launch trailers, discounts on launch if you want, exclusive content for people who pre-order or buy early, and the reviews, they're kind of at the... If people are really wanting a game, they will probably buy the game anyway. But reviews are important because it increases your searchability. And then you want them to keep the game. You want them to keep playing it. You want to keep building recommendations, keep building long-term sales of your game. So you'll phase in and out of sales. You do other marketing activity. You'll build a brand which builds value for you as a developer and you as a studio. So, DLC, PR, telling the story about the game. What else? Accolade trailers, if you've got a load of, kind of great comments and quotes that you can use, that you can throw onto an accolade trailer, that's always a good technique. Developer interviews, playthroughs, things like the making of. There's a great thing about Death's Door that I watched recently, which is the making of Death's Door, which is a beautiful game. But that came out about 4 weeks after the launch of the game. All these things keep your game up in the cloud. They keep them up in, they kind of increase the SEO. They make your game get noticed by people. So it's really important to keep on marketing. Marketing doesn't stop at launch. You build up to launch and then you carry on marketing because it's a commodity. And that commodity is now out in the world and we need to make money from it. So the last one is assets. I was really worried that was going to look rude, but it didn't. So the break was a good place. Copy is really important. Words are very important. And it's easy for me as a native English speaker. Well, I'm from Manchester, so semi-native English speaker. But this is a description that a developer sent to me recently about their game. It's a short description for Steam. So on an alien planet, humans benefit from an ancient technology left over in ruins by an unknown alien civilization, which is easy to say, scavenging it for tech and power, full stop. EXO is an organization that protects and polices the planet from multiple threats, both human and potentially alien. The player, a female pilot, because it's inclusive, is part of the Air Force in quotes, of this organization. And I said, okay, I'm going to, also they paid me to marketize it. So, kind of let's build some compelling copy from that. So instead it's an unrelenting onslaught of eye-popping visuals, ear-bursting soundscapes, and mind-melting action. Make this game the vanguard for the next generation of shoot-'em-ups. So I kind of went very bombastic, but it was, a twin-stick shooter, which it needed it, basically. It just kind of takes something from a passive piece of copy to an active piece of copy that you go, wow, this is an action movie, I want to be part of this. Well, you hopefully want to be part of this. The right people will want to be part of it. Key art. Key art is really important. It's the one most important asset that you will ever make because it's the one that will be seen in more places by passive viewers and the general public. And what you should do, I really encourage you to go and look at the stores and look at the stores regularly. Look at what's trending. Look at what, which pieces of key art really scream at you, because when you're making the key art in the studio, it's not on a big screen, it's on a tiny screen. On the top there, I should use a laser pointer, but you see, this is my game TV, and in the background is a beautiful picture of my son, which I obscured with the massive gaming TV. My wife's very happy about it. But, good key art really just it should tell you something about the game. It should scream off the page. If that page is, a digital store, so be it. And if you look at you look at Mafia Definitive Edition there, it's a beautiful piece of key art. It's telling me a lot about the game already. We've got this Mafia character, you've got the kind of the cliched machine gun, you've got the vintage car in the background, but you've got the city. So it's telling you, it's not just a shoot 'em up, it's more than that, because you've got the city, you've got cars. So, okay, there's vehicle driving in this game. And you've got that kind of classic mafioso kind of pose. So you know that something is going on here. And they're telling a story in the key art. And it's coming out. Even though it's small, it's there. You see 2 Call of Duties there, both with very different moods. One, perhaps Vanguard kind of, we see that's probably more respectful and more about simulation. And then we go to Warzone, which is, blokes, guns, bazookas. It's different, and it tells you something about the game. So try and build that into your key art. So quick example, I'm going to finish in a couple of minutes, but Insane Robots came to me. This was key art, and I said, okay, that's great, but it doesn't really give me the story. So they said, okay then, Stephen, will you draw us a picture or tell me how I'm going to, tell the story? And the story was, this was a card-based battler with robots. And so I did this amazing piece of art. I know there's probably some artists in the room kind of thinking about their career options after seeing what I can do with an iPad. That wasn't a joke, that bit. And so I did this, and they said, yeah, okay, we get it. This is our version. Are we okay to use this? And I went, well, I suppose so. It got a bit awkward. I smashed a glass. But suddenly, we see a story here. We see 2 robots. They're fighting. There's some icons, so there's some kind of sense of kind of strategy there, light strategy. We've got a logo with all the characters, so there's a whole selection of characters. So we're telling a story in what we do, and we're telling a story in that piece of key art. Another example is a game called Buildings Have Feelings Too. And again, look, this is a great piece of key art, because this game was a city simulator where the buildings have feelings, essentially. So I said, well, this is what I want to see. I want to see happy buildings. I want them to be very kind of personified. I want some kind of icons to kind of show the management part of it. And then the devs did this, and I said, this is cool. This is kind of, getting there. And then finally, we iterated this. So we put some of those icons in to show that actually that they are sentient buildings, and there's a world there. And again, when we thought about the X statement, we had build a thriving world, blah, 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 blah. And actually, you just take out the important words there, and it's a city builder with living, breathing buildings. There is a trailer. I'm going to skip past the trailer. And then, I don't think it's going to play anyway. And then I'm going to skip straight to, will that play? No. Okay. I'm going to skip straight to my website, which is here. And I realized that, Ozan did a great job of selling his merch, his company, his mother. He merchandised the heck out of this. So I'm going to do that too. So this is me, Stephen, at heystephenhay.com. Heystephenhay.com is the website. And especially just for Christmas, you can buy the Lego set, and with some kind of regional pricing in there as well, because I'm an inclusive guy as well. Thank you very much.
Stephen, if we have any questions, there's a mic set up at the front if anyone would like to come and ask anything regarding marketing those products you're making? Yeah.
Hello.
My name is Niels. I teach game development at Namdal's Folkhögskola. So my question is, where would you start to teach new game dev students about marketing?
I would start from day one, really. And I know that sounds, well, Steven's in marketing, so he's going to say that because, you know, he has to justify his place on the planet. But I think, you know, the games market is so intensely competitive at the moment that marketing needs to be threaded through games. It doesn't need to be, it's not a thing that comes in even halfway through. It needs to be in at the very beginning, I think. And also, if you're going to do that exercise where you're going to work out what you're making and who you're making it for, I think that, you know, you can then start building a feature set around who you're making the game for. And then if you know who you're making the game for, then you can work out how you market it to those people. What's going to motivate those people? So if you're making a game which is a first-person shooter, and we know that first-person shooters perhaps tend to, that audience tends to have motivations which are very much about either one, kind of dominating the battlefield and beating everyone at all costs, or two, the other set of motivations that you get lots are those where they kind of want to win, but in a strategic way, and they really want to, and it's an internalized thing. So for the person with the who wants to win and get the glory, you need to have lots of kind of leaderboards, for example, in every, you know, so give them lots and lots of ways to be that number one person. It's fastest on the trigger, you know, fastest turning a corner, whatever it is. Whereas the other people, they just need all these strategic options, perhaps, and they need the ability to command a team of people on the battlefield. But they're product features, so although, you know, which then we come back to when we market the game and we place it in people's hands, and they're the things that are going to come out in the reviews. So that's why I would say day one.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Thank you.
Cool. Excellent. I'm just going to take a picture of my Lego man. And then I think, and then we're good. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen.
Thanks.